Good evening, everybody. I will call the Board of Selectmen Monday, October 21st, 2024 meeting to order. And as a reminder, this meeting is being broadcast and recorded. We have a 6:05 appointment, so I'm going to take care of some regular business until we get to that appointment time. I will make a motion to approve the weekly warrant in the amount of $940,848.83.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. I will make a motion to approve the minutes for the Selectmen's October 7th, 2024 open meeting and executive session.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Next on the agenda is consider whether Pickering Street, Winthrop Street, and Maple Street should be closed to traffic on Thursday, October 31st, between the hours of 5 and 8. Chief Francis will staff the closure if supported by the board. But I guess my question, Brendan, for you is in the Chapter 5 Police Regulations and Bylaws, Section 2 basically says the chief, it says, Section 2, police may close streets temporarily. The chief of police is hereby authorized to close temporarily any street or highway in an impending or existing emergency or for any lawful assemblage, demonstration process. So can't he just choose to close that for the 3 hours?
Yes, it's just been his tradition to come to the board so you would understand the request and what might happen on Halloween.
Okay.
But yes, he can because it's temporary and it would be for a lawful gathering. And perhaps that's just it. Coming to the board makes it more of a town-sanctioned
Event.
gathering.
Okay. Chief, do you want to come to the podium? And when you speak, if you can just speak 6 inches away from the microphone so that it can be captured. Do you want a board vote on this? I guess my sadness about this is if we vote, certainly we assume that it's going to be closed. It's Halloween. It always has. It's been tradition. But we now have 6 out of our 8 officers that have little kids. And my fear is that if we vote to do this, they're going to be ordered, and then they're not going to be home with their little kids. Versus if we don't, would you be able to use the civilian traffic control officers and the fire department to help navigate this without having to order in the officers with all the little kids?
I could use the civilian traffic control officers, but usually what I do is I usually have at least 1 or 2 of my officers with me. Because you never know. I mean, every once in a while I'll see someone walking around with a can of beer or what have you, so that's why we like to have police there.
Yeah. Would the whole department be ordered, or would it just be?
No, it's not going to be, the whole department won't be ordered. Usually, at most, it'll be myself and maybe 2 officers.
Okay. In addition to the 2 that will already be on shift?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, okay. Do you generally have more than that? Meaning at that point, if you have the 2 on shift and the 2 with you, would you need the traffic control officers at that point, or would you just have the 2?
We really won't need them.
Okay.
Because we shut the roads down completely with signage and what have you. The main thing is I like to have somebody on the Western Ave end of Winthrop and Pickering, and somebody down in front of the old police station crossing people.
And don't get me wrong, of course, I've lived here for 20 years and it's always been closed down. I lived on Winthrop Street. I would expect nothing less. It's the best night of the year in Essex, but I just feel sad for the little kids.
I understand, but the thing is, we don't really have the mechanism to pay the TCOs because they're not on our payroll. It would be details.
Right.
So we don't have detail officers for that. We usually take care of that out of our community policing funds.
And this isn't something where the fire department could volunteer if you had some of the fire staff that was willing to do it?
Well, they could, but they really don't have the authority to be closing down the streets and stopping people from going down the street.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Thank you.
Yep.
So I will make a motion to close Pickering Street, Winthrop Street, and Maple Street from 5 to 8 p.m. on Thursday, October 31st.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. It is 6:06 and our appointment has not joined us in the room or online, so I'm going to keep going with the agenda. I will make a motion to vote to approve the signature for the proposed 1/1/25 through 12/31/25 retiree health insurance rates from Maya, which was in our packet. Do you have any questions on that, Alva?
No. No, it's very confusing to me. I don't want to retire now.
But you did get the rates, the breakdown of the rates.
Yeah,
And
I-
you see the increase.
Yeah. Now, and this is just for our retirees or for?
Yes, retiree plans go on a calendar year basis,
Okay,
whereas active employees go on a fiscal year basis.
got it. Maybe that's what I was confused about.
Do you want to second it?
Oh, sorry, second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. I will make a motion to vote to appoint Dario Morelli as a general election worker effective 10/22/24 for a one-year term ending 8/15/25.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. I will make a motion to vote to accept the resignation of the town clerk, Holly Dash, effective Friday, November 8th, 2024.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, Brendan, let's go to your report. I still don't see Nate joining us.
First item on my report has, excuse my voice, I'm getting over a cold. The Affordable Housing Trust met and had the personnel from the Metropolitan Area Planning Council, MAPC, present remotely for that meeting. And MAPC went through the basic outline of what to expect as they help the town develop a housing production plan. The Essex Affordable Housing Trust was in agreement with what was proposed. They had some minor comments, and at this time, we're just waiting for next steps. The MAPC is really doing a lot of research and a lot of background before they start jumping into developing work products and starting to have the public input sessions. I did provide an excerpt from the presentation that they made as part of your packages. I don't know if you had any questions on that.
So I did have a couple. So first of all, where it says meet local housing needs, what is that based on? Like, I know that we have people that want to live in this town because this is where they grew up and they'd like to stay. And I know that we have people that want to live in this town because it's more affordable than living in Manchester and still getting the same school system. So is there anything, like, has it been figured out as all the things that could possibly be a reason why? Or is it just because of?
It's going to be very customized to Essex, and the consultant plans to work with town officials to really try and get a sense from the public of all of the different things that are meaningful with respect to housing in Essex and affordable housing. So they really stressed at the meeting that they want to take a very custom approach.
And then the only other thing is, all of the housing plans, I actually have two things. Every one of them comes with both pros and cons, and I just want to make sure that we also make sure we pay attention to what are the cons, because we could be setting ourselves up for failure in the future. And then one last comment I wanted to make was just regarding the census and making sure that every place in town that has a multifamily is truly getting a census, because I know that for years, until my niece moved to town and actually registered to vote, we didn't have a census. Because the mailman always puts the wrong mail in the wrong box, so I look at every day, and I remember, a few times, I'm like,
So are you talking about the annual voter census?
the annual voter census.
Okay. So what you're suggesting is make sure that that process is tuned up so that,
I think so. I think that we just have to make sure, just because, there may be years that somebody has a two-family that they don't have renters in it, but even if they don't, the census should still come to the address for the second apartment or the third apartment.
right, and then, yeah, okay.
Because I think that also goes to our numbers for school. Your numbers aren't going to be correct if the household that does have the children isn't getting a census.
Yep, okay, well, I'll underscore that as we go through the process with them. The second item is a partial refund of the engineering fee for the design of the downtown lighting project. I've mentioned in the past that we were not satisfied with the designer, and we were kind of left with some big surprises. I can tell you that if we get that partial refund, the total spent on the project will be about $23,400. Yet we do have in the town's custody $200,000 worth of lighting equipment. So it's about a 10% investment gets us that equipment, because we were able to convince state grant makers to cover the non-refundable cost of that equipment after we found out way too late that there were utility conflicts that the designer really didn't adequately call out. So my recommendation at this point is to accept their offer of a partial refund and close out the project.
So I will make a motion to accept the letter dated October 11th, 2024 from Stantec Consulting Services, Inc. for a partial refund and close out this project.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And finally, some discussion on the intermunicipal agreement for the Eastern Essex Regional Public Health Coalition. We've been a member for, I think, coming up on 3 years now. And this is funded by funding from the Massachusetts Department of Public Health. It puts regional public health professionals at the fingertips of the participating communities. All of the administrative work is taken care of by the town of Hamilton as the anchor community. They're allowed to get a percentage of the grant money for doing that. We don't really have a downside because we're not paying and we're not providing a level of effort to manage personnel and other administrative matters, yet we can benefit from the professionals that the coalition will provide. At the last meeting, we weren't quite ready, but now the final version that has been reviewed by town council is available for the board's signature.
I will make a motion to sign the intermunicipal agreement for the Eastern Essex Regional Public Health Coalition.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And the Board of Health will be taking this up, I believe they said on October 28th. They want all communities to have signed on by the 31st, so that's going to work well. So I think that was those were the items on my report.
Yes, thank you. I was just looking to see if Nate had joined us. I will do some reminders. There will be a business zoning forum sponsored by the Greater Cape Ann Chamber of Commerce this Wednesday, October 23rd, 2024, from 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. at Rivers Bend, 35 Dodge Street. They did send an email inviting the entire board. We are posted so that the whole board can attend if interested. And it's more of, the way that it was explained to me is that it's more of a listening session. So I know that Lisa O'Donnell, the chair of the planning board, will be there to answer any questions that the business community has about the proposed zoning districts. And we're just sitting there as silent observers is kind of my understanding. The next reminder is that the Board of Selectmen will attend a public auction for the 4 properties previously owned by William Allen. That will take place here in the 3rd floor auditorium of the Essex Town Hall on Thursday, October 24th, 2024. The auction will start promptly at noon with pre-registration starting at 11:30 a.m.
So just to remind me, we start here, then we go over to the property, or the whole thing's done here?
The whole thing will be
All
done
here.
here on the third floor. That corner of Southern Ave is too dangerous to have a live auction. There's no parking and it's too dangerous. The next regular Board of Selectmen's meeting will take place on Monday, November 4th, 2024 at 6 p.m. That will be here at third floor auditorium of the Town Hall, 30 Martin Street. And the Selectmen will attend the Planning Board's public hearing concerning zoning bylaw proposals at 6 p.m. on November 6th, 2024 here at Town Hall.
Easy.
So our 6:05 appointment was with Nate Woodman, who I thought was joining us this evening. He's clearly not joining us. So I do have the folder with his application, and the town administrator had sent an email capturing all of the things that we needed. We still, as of meeting time, we hadn't received these things, correct?
Yeah, that's right. He was
So-
away at the time, but I didn't see anything come in.
Okay. So, I'm a little reluctant to vote on these.
That's the email, right?
I have the email,
Yeah.
yes. So the email is dated Tuesday, October 8th at 7:03 a.m., which was the morning following our meeting, that laid out the things we were looking for. So just as a reminder, Nate had submitted an application to hold ales over ALS. There was a conversation about whether he would get an occupancy permit. We had discussed that. And the things that were still pending was having to speak with the police department about it, getting the detail officers. There needs to be 2 of them from 1 p.m. to 10 p.m. Needing to know the plan for trash removal, since that was crossed off the list. Talking about the burning, whether it be an open burn or a fire pit or a barrel. Needing the updated certificate of liability, which named the town of Essex as an additional insured to be held at Centennial Grove's Folsom Pavilion. We needed the insurance certificate, which currently reflects the wrong times. We needed that changed from 1 p.m. to 10 p.m. And then we needed the top section of the rental checklist to actually be completed. It's currently blank. So there were quite a few things that we were waiting on to be able to take this vote tonight. And the event is scheduled for November
Does he
2nd.
list his number there? I could try to call and see if he'll come.
Yeah.
So-
I will not say that out loud. So,
So do we know whether or not, did we get approval for occupancy?
so the building inspector did give them a temporary occupancy permit. So just for the one night, they were able to string up some temporary lighting. They purchased exit signs. They blocked off the end that had a kind of a tall transition point. So he was satisfied with all of the things that they did to allow them to use it. So we were comfortable with them using the new building, which is great. It's just all of the kind of liability aspects that we need to take care of.
And then, just so we can make sure, as reminders, this Saturday, isn't it this Saturday? Yes, that is the
Clam
Clam
Fest.
Fest.
Yes, great point. And let me check my phone, I do have that in there. Great reminder. So just as a reminder, Clam Fest will be held this Saturday, October 26th, down behind 30 Martin Street at Shepherd Memorial Park. In Alva, is it at 11?
He's on his way.
Okay,
11, yes.
11 a.m.
You can do other things.
The only thing I have remaining, Brendan, is fall town meeting, opening the warrant, closing it, but we're not going to do that until we review it, I'm assuming. And you're not going to do that until department head meeting, or do you want to do
No, I
that?
mean, we weren't going to go over it with all the department heads.
Okay, so we can.
You can move on.
So
with
move on to that, okay.
Yeah.
So we will go over to the fall town meeting warrant.
And if you want, I can briefly go through the articles that we have finalized on here.
Sure, why don't you take them and we can discuss if
Yep.
we need to stop at particular articles.
Okay, Article 1 has to do with the authority, the state law that the town has adopted with respect to the authority, certain authority of the police chief. Article 2 is,
Can we stop for one
Yeah.
second at Article 1?
yep,
So there's been a lot of discussion around Article 1, which was 97 versus 97A. The town of Essex is currently a 97A community. We have been for as long as we can remember. In talking to members of the community, it sounds like there is some miscommunication about what the intent of bringing that article to fall town meeting was. We know that when the board decided that we were going to go entertain going outside the department for the hiring of the next police chief, we don't know what we're going to get. So had we stayed within the department, just strictly within the department, and we had promoted from within, we already know what we would get because we already work with those people all day, every day. But when you open it up and you potentially go outside and who knows, who you're going to hire, you don't know who that person is. So the goal of going from 97A to 97 was not about trying to have, the Board of Selectmen manage the police department. It was about making sure that whoever we do bring in, we have great communication, collaboration, transparency, because you don't know if, Susie Snowflake or Bob Smith is going to be that person. So it's a very subtle difference, 97 versus 97A. A lot of people refer to it as weak chief versus strong chief. The only thing that it gives the Board of Selectmen the authority to do is basically approve the rules and regulations. But the goal, if you don't know the person you're hiring, is that it creates an open dialogue of communication, collaboration, and transparency. So I'm feeling like we can accomplish the same objective, which is those three things, in the job description. So I'm not necessarily sure that, given what I'm hearing from residents, and I will tell you that there is a resident who came to me and we had a 2-hour conversation about this. It's a resident that I highly respect. And they brought all the reasons why they were going to fight against it on town meeting floor. And that's not why I'm saying this, but it's like it opened my eyes to the perception of what people think the reason was that we were doing it. And since that really isn't the goal, which is not for the Board of Selectmen to manage the police department or to run it from town hall, when that resident said that to me, I thought, oh geez, that's a bad look as well. That's not the goal.
Well,
So
exactly, and it's also a matter of the select board can't do everything. We have our department heads and our boards in order to do those things, so I agree with you. I think that's...
right, so you hire the right person to manage that department, right? And you leave it to them, and you just hope that the job description captures exactly what we've...
And you follow through, because like
Right.
everything we have in most towns, if you don't have a way of saying, hey, there's a problem, why didn't I hear about this? Or, hey, is this being done? We have to call people in as an executive board of the town.
Sure, yeah, right. So if we have disciplinary, we bring them into executive session. If we have something else that we want to discuss, we bring them into a meeting. So, if you were hiring another Chief Francis again, you wouldn't need to be talking about this, right? But we don't know who we're hiring, so that's why we discussed it. And I think at this point, it's going to be, you sound like you're on the same page. I think that we remove Article 1 and we replace it with something different. So, or, just move it around so that we can keep the planning board articles
you'd
where
have to
they are.
replace it because they're advertising their articles with article numbers. And so you could take the last article that was on the warrant, which is the unpaid bills, and move it to the top. It's just a housekeeping matter. And then things would be numbered a little bit differently. So if you did that, that would become Article 1. Then Article 2 is the definitions that the planning board would like to add. The final version of it, they did some different formatting today with the headings and such, but the content is the same as what you have on the version that you may have printed out. And I sent you this
Yes.
version earlier. Article 3 then goes into the proposals for actual zoning districts. And, the planning board has done a lot of work on this. The chairman mentioned that the selectmen will be attending the public hearing on November 6th to better understand these articles, these proposals. So that would bring us to Article 4, and this is where the Conservation Commission wanted to add to their very short bylaw that they have now, which is only one paragraph, to discuss some fees related to various services and responsibilities of the commission. So that's all been put in place the way that they had proposed to do it. Article 5 is for a fully equipped ambulance, which would come from the ambulance fund, and there is adequate money in that fund to cover it. Article 6 would be for new police vehicles to replace police vehicles that need to be taken out of service. And exactly what that shapes up to be, the board has time to talk about that in between now and town meeting. Water Department is going to use water funds for a fully equipped dump truck with plow, pickup truck with plow. With respect to the design for a municipal fuel depot, we did have one engineering firm come back with some figures, but they were just very high and very different than what I expected. We have made contact with another firm, and I just sent out a note on that, where they're talking about a design maybe costing somewhere in the neighborhood of $25,000, which is a lot more of what I would expect, because they're going to need a civil engineer to look at the site. They're going to need a mechanical engineer to help design the pumping system, and a structural engineer for setting the tank adequately on the ground, you know, without settling, et cetera.
So can I just ask a question on that? So the landing DPW site is the only place that we looked at? I mean, I'm a little bit concerned about having a fuel depot there now. It's a small road. Everybody, you know, who lives on small roads tell us, is that the best place, is my question.
It could be put anywhere, and right now, this says, it just says on town property. So you're not locked into that.
Okay,
The article
okay.
says,
I just was kind of like, I mean, I can get that over on Centennial, that's really close to our water supply, so maybe that's not a good place. And then I thought, well, I wonder if the safety building, having it in the back there versus,
I think it would be hard to turn,
that's what, well, that was the other thing I
especially
thought.
fire trucks, right? Because they're going to fuel up too.
Yeah,
I think that we can get a price for a design that's going to include assessing whatever property you think is best, but if you start getting into comparing properties, that's where the price starts to go up. I was told as well that these things are costing around $600,000 these days. I believe when Hamilton put theirs in, it was $400,000
Okay.
for two 4,000-gallon tanks.
Wow.
so, and does Hamilton share it with Wenham?
I don't know.
I don't believe so.
It's just, and it is to me a big expense. We know that Manchester has one, I didn't realize Hamilton had one already, so.
So I'm going to be talking to an engineer probably tomorrow from another firm, and I'm going to say, look, what is your range on what it will cost for a design, and what are you seeing in the marketplace? And, you know, you can decide to indefinitely postpone it if you think, you know, I guess if you got a design done, it's relatively short money, and then you'd have to see whether you were ready to swallow the, you know, and maybe you could get federal money for disaster mitigation or something like that, you know,
Yeah.
for the actual construction.
Okay.
Article 9 then,
Client connection.
yeah, would be the computer hardware and software for connectivity to our servers in Danvers. 10 would be, do we add some funding to the ARPA money to hopefully take care of not only the base bid that is out to bid now for a third time for the water supply well project, but also an ad alternate that would get more of the project done. We will not know about that until November 4th, what the bid is. We've discussed the matching the state earmark for Alewife Brook and Tobacco Lake in the surrounding watershed. We're still waiting to hear back from Hamilton on whether they'll come up with a similar amount of money.
So can I just ask, what if they say, what if they never come back to us?
Then you can decide whether you want to read the article or not.
Okay.
But traditionally, we have always funded this, so even if Hamilton doesn't want to contribute,
I don't want us to be funding 30,000 because Hamilton's not pitching in their portion.
I don't think that
Well,
was
the
not our.
difference is, every time, okay, we've done all the legwork in the administration, but every time so far, it has been solely state money. This is the first time we're being asked to match it.
We're being asked to match it, but we're not being asked, we're only looking at putting in 15,000, right? If Hamilton doesn't come back and say, we'll put in 15 as well, we're not looking at putting in 30. We're strictly.
Well, she's saying that because they think it's going to be 2 years in a row that they're asking for that. We're expecting to get an earmark this fiscal year, we already know that, and then next fiscal year. And the Lake Association is saying in order to get what they need to get out of the project, it would be 2 earmarks and then 2 matches from each town.
And administrator, right? You have to administrate this money that's come.
As I have been, yeah, but it hasn't been town money. It would wade over into town money. So, we have to hear more information about it, but, certainly if you don't want to,
I'd like to know why Hamilton's, why they're not responding, or why,
well, my understanding is that there is a selectmen's meeting where they're going to be discussing it. It
Okay.
just hasn't happened yet.
okay,
Article 12 would be the special purpose funds and amounts of money that would go in. I think the Finance Committee is going with $20,000 per fund and $3,000 for the lighting repair fund.
And that's also the fund where we need to talk about the purchase of potential future vehicles. So hopefully they're going to, I'm assuming they'll take that up at their next finance committee
Right, so
meeting.
far, I think it's just $20,000 per fund, but that can change between now and then, town meeting. Then we have wastewater enterprise fund money for continuing the replacement of grinder pumps.
can I just say, that's Article 13, right?
Yes.
On here, it says 35, but did we get an email today that said 39?
I did not. I picked a figure and said this is an estimate, and the Department of Public Works was going to be getting back to us about what their board, which I think is meeting tonight as well,
Okay.
comes up with for a final figure. They like to do 50, but they did not get a lot of retained earnings this year, which means 50 would strap them.
Okay.
So they're going to pick a different number. But I didn't see an email for 39.
It was for the board, because they're not going to be here at the board, so they,
Oh, I didn't see all the details of that. Okay, so if that's in that update,
and I could have misread it because it was late, but
right, I haven't been able to digest that whole thing yet, so that's possible that it's 39. Article 14 will be replenish the Finance Committee's reserve fund. Right now, this will be taking from the dredging match fund and putting money back in the reserve fund because the reserve fund took care of the funding for moving the moorings for the dredging project. Article 15 will be adding, I believe, $200,000 to the OPEB trust for retiree health insurance benefits. 16 is potential changes to the wage and salary scale from the annual town meeting in May. One of those changes could be, as we discussed, if applicable, a change to the shellfish constable's wage structuring, which could either be hourly or could be continued salary, but at a higher amount if he does actually trigger that new provision. And then we also talked about the possibility, and we'll see, with respect to the town clerk, which you can decide between now and then whether you're going to even bring that up in a motion. But you're talking about potentially increasing the upper limit of what the town clerk could make, because we're having a hard time fielding candidates. And then finally, there's an article with respect to the FY25 budget and what things may need to be adjusted. And so far, we have an adjustment to the sick vacation pay for retirees upon retirement because our chief of police is retiring, and that, we do have a line item for that that could be directly increased. We have some adjustments to the town clerk salary line and the town clerk's assistant wage line, possibly. And we'll know more about whether additional money should go in, depending on how our town clerk search goes. But we already have to kind of replenish funds in there for all the different people we've had working in that office. The shellfish deputy line has to be increased because there were a lot more deputy hours when the constable was out on medical leave. In Town Hall, we're looking for an additional $1,000 to do a complete removal inspection and cleaning of all of our smoke detectors, because we've had a couple of false alarms that we believe may have been due to dust, and the building is now 7 to 8 years old. Fire department recommended that we do that. Let's see. And then as we've already discussed, and as we know, the general fund, the water fund, and the sewer fund will all need to be increased with respect to electricity lines, because our electricity rate is going up in the middle of the fiscal year. And I haven't gotten an exact answer yet, but the Conservation Commission was thinking of changing the amount that they have for an employee conservation agent, which would be a town employee wage line, over to a contracted services or an expense line. Those are all the things that could happen, but it will be in the motion. It's not shown in the actual warrant. And so that's it. That's the update and review.
Okay, so back to Article 1, because we had a lot of conversation, but we didn't really say definitively. Are you fine with taking it off? You
So
want to make
I'm-
sure that we're on the
I'm
same
fine
page.
with taking it off, I'm fine with leaving it there, because if it doesn't pass, either way, we would do the same thing.
Perception is reality, and
I
if we
get it,
leave
no.
it there,
No, I think taking it off is fine, if you're in agreement with that. I know Peter kind of gave me the sense that he was in agreement with that.
where did you feel Peter landed?
And when we discussed it over the last
A
6 weeks.
couple of meetings, yeah, that he was fine taking it.
He was, I think he was kind of leaning towards keeping it at 97A. Not, he never
Okay.
said that, but with the questions that he asked.
Okay, so I think we're going to leave it at 97A. That's where we're landing.
So you would not have.
So we will
you would-
not have
you would
Article
start
1
Article 1 with the
with
unpaid
the
bills.
unpaid bills.
Okay, so I have a version of the warrant that has that on it, and if you can go through the.
Yes, I'm going to go through the
votes on
motions.
agenda.
So this is where we go through each motion individually and have to do these, so bear with me. I will make a motion to vote to hold fall town meeting on Monday, November 18th, 2024, at 6:45 PM at the Essex Elementary School.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. I will make a motion to vote to open the warrant for the November 18th, 2024 fall town meeting.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. I will make a motion to vote to add articles for the November 18th, 2024 fall town meeting per the draft warrant presented at this meeting, which will not be revised. Second?
Oh, second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. I will make a motion to vote to close the warrant.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. I will make a motion to vote to approve the warrant.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And I will make a motion to sign the warrant at this meeting right now.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
There are 4 copies.
Was there anything that was unanticipated?
I don't have anything.
Excellent. I know that when the chief gets up to do his department head meeting, he's going to talk about accreditation, but as an unanticipated, I just want to extend my congratulations and my gratitude to the police department for doing such a great job getting the reaccredited with all the new standards. And so although I know he's going to report out on that, I wanted to acknowledge it before he even said anything. So we'll hear all about it, but just again, congratulations and gratitude to the police department. All right. Mr. Woodman, if you would like to join us at the podium, when you chat with us, if I could ask you to speak about 6 or 8 inches away from that microphone so that it captures you, because we are being broadcast and recorded, okay?
Sure.
Thank you so much for coming down and joining us. We have you on the agenda. You were on the last meeting, and I know that you were away, so you couldn't be with us. We tabled it for a couple of reasons, and I know we sent an email, so I'm going to just kind of go over those things so that you know what we were looking for.
Yep.
So your appointment was regarding ALS over ALS, to consider a request from Nathan Woodman to rent the pavilion at Centennial Grove to host the annual ALS over ALS event on Saturday, November 2nd, 2024, between the hours of 1 p.m. and 10 p.m., and to review the one-day license request and sign the parking permit. So you weren't at the meeting. We did actually have a discussion about this in your absence, and we were informed by Building Inspector Bill Sanborn that he did give you a temporary, or gave the building a temporary occupancy permit because you were able to hang lights, put the exit signs, block off the barricade, the end that had the transition point. So you met all that criteria. So we can use the building. That's awesome news. We did get the application, and here's, I don't know if you saw the email that was dated October 8th, but there were a few things in the application that had some missing.
I at least have the email in front of me right now, too.
The email, okay. So what we need to do is we need to make sure that we've secured 2 police officers for detail from 1 to 10 p.m. And I know that in past years, I don't know who, but people were letting the detail officers leave prior to the event ending. We need to make sure that the detail officer stays. It's an event where they're serving alcohol.
Yep.
So the point is that the officers are seeing people leaving after consuming alcoholic beverages.
I have one question on that.
Sure.
Okay. So here's the question. So the event, officially the event goes from 3 to 8, right? Open to the public. The 1 to 10 is to create, basically time for setup and, takedown.
Okay.
Right? So my only question is, I get what you just said, right? The concern about, people leaving and stuff like that. So here's my question is, can I have the detail from 3 to 10? You understand?
I do understand. Yep.
Yeah, okay.
I would say
If the
if no
answer's no, that's
alcohol is
okay.
being served between 8 and 10 would make the difference, correct?
Well, so where Nate's going, and I agree with him more than the 8 part. So you're setting up between 1 and 3 p.m. No alcohol will be served?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you're looking for the detail to go from 3 to 10?
Correct.
So that even though the alcohol cutoff time will be 8 p.m., if they're hanging out, they're finishing up that cocktail,
okay.
we still have police there.
You got it.
So I'm going to, bear with me, I'm deferring to the town administrator because I've never been asked to go outside the window of the event time for this, so.
Well, it's not, I know
Right, the event is 3 to 8, I understand. I'm getting it. I just want to make sure that we're
I
covered
think-
from an ABCC
I
point of
think
view.
that is reasonable because we're being told that service does not begin
Till 3 o'clock.
until 3.
Okay.
Correct.
So I'm very comfortable with that. So the detail officers will be there from 3 p.m. to 10 p.m. And they will not be let go early, Nate. You'll make sure they stay there till 10 p.m.
Yeah, that's it. And they typically, at some point in the day, at some point in the night, they've usually come up and say, hey, can I go now? And I usually just say yes. Because they say, because they've said, this is what time was supposed to be here. Right. And I just,
Right. So 3 to 10. If
But now we're just extending their detail another 2 hours to basically cover the breakdown time.
the breakdown time.
Because as we know, people have a tendency to linger.
Correct. Perfect. Okay. Trash removal. On the application, there's a line that talks about trash removal, and you put a line through it. So,
I didn't put the line through it, but I think I received it with a line through it. But to answer the question though, trash removal is taken care of by Woodman's, the caterer.
Oh, okay, perfect. That answers that. The burning. I know that we've had conversations in the past about having a burn pile. So if you're going to do a burn barrel, it just needs to be in a contained, I know, I'm going to use the name Mark Renzi because I know Mark has the big burn bowl that you guys have used up there.
He calls it a cauldron.
Okay, so if you're using that, that's fine. It's a contained burn. It just can't be an open burn, as we know. And obviously, there would be absolutely no burning inside that building. We clearly know that as well.
Obviously. So
Okay.
check on that.
Check on that.
Any fires are within a contained.
Perfect. And then the most important thing, the liability, naming. So we have the certificate of liability.
Yeah.
And it has a few things that just need some correction. I'm sure your insurance company can handle that in 2 clicks of a button. It doesn't mention the town of Essex being as an additional insured, so we need to be named on the certificate of insurance.
It currently says, and just if you have the certificate, I don't know, but it currently says Centennial Grove. It says the location.
So, right,
in that
so-
section, it should also say the town of Essex.
So that's where it doesn't. It needs to be,
Right,
we
and
need to be an
specific
additional
language, additional
insured.
insured, that's different than certificate holder.
Yes.
Oh, okay, Brendan, I heard that. So Brendan, you just said it's an addition, it's not about where
They sometimes will write down town of Essex is the certificate holder. That is not the same thing as listing the town of Essex as an additional insured.
Okay.
They'll know the difference.
Understood.
It'll
So-
cost more money.
Okay,
And then Nate, the final thing is the rental checklist.
Yep.
You just didn't fill it out. It's all blank, so I just need you to fill out basically complete the application.
okay, is
Okay?
that?
Yep,
if it's
you
so-
can take it to the chair and do it right now, that's fine.
All right, that was my question.
So, yep, it sounds like we're basically on the same page with all of the things you need to accomplish.
Yeah.
So I will, Alva, do you have any questions?
No.
No.
I do have one question.
Nate?
Yeah, in the email you said proof of detail, right? So seeing that I don't have that right now because we just decided 3 to 10,
It was more of a conversation for you to understand that you must have a detail of 2 police officers at this point, it's going to be from 3 p.m. to 10 p.m. So I know the chief is in the room and he's hearing this conversation. I'm sure that knowing what the event is, it's an annual event, he will make sure that probably some surrounding community can have a detail here if Essex can't cover it. So, yeah, there's a lot of people that are coming to that, so.
So typically how I handle this, my brother Ian puts in the request, right? And so he's told me he's put in the request for 3 to 8. I'm going to ask him to extend the request from 3 to 10.
I can have them do that right now. I
Okay.
had them send me a picture of the detail slip, it is 3 to 8.
Right. Okay,
So I'll have one of my officers change it from 3 to 8 to 3 to 10.
perfect. Thank you. Yeah.
And Nate, the only other post-it that you'll see here on the edge of this application when you take it back to fill it out, you'll see my little note that says that the rental fee will be collected after the event, which I know you have traditionally always done.
Yeah.
So that's you'll see my post-it. And I've already signed the parking pass, so that's all set as well. So I will make a motion to approve, actually, bear with me, let me get my licensing. I will make a motion to approve Nathan Woodman for Centennial Grove Ales Over ALS on Saturday, November 2nd, 2024, between the hours of 1 p.m. and 10 p.m., band with amplified music, the headliners with speaker radio and a boombox.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. I will make a motion for Nathan Woodman Ales Over ALS on Saturday, November 2nd, 2024, within the confines of the Centennial Grove Folsom Pavilion between the hours of 1 and 10 p.m.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So Nate, I'm going to hand you your application to fill out completely, and then you can give it back to Pam.
Okay, thank you. And for the record, the requests on those 2 points about the insurance certificate, I have forwarded them to the person that produces this certificate, and Pam is in copy of that. So,
Perfect.
Hopefully that all closes and works out in the next day or 2. You're just preparing the checklist?
I'm gonna give this to you, so this is the top of the application that I just need completed.
Okay.
And then Alva, these are for you to sign. Yes, perfect, thank you.
Also, do you want to give this to?
Thank you. Okay, we have 8 minutes until the department head quarterly meeting. So I'm going to call a recess until we hit 7 o'clock. Joan, if you want to go to fade to black for 8 minutes, just so we can take a quick break and we'll come back up at 7. Thank you to everybody that's joined us online and for patiently waiting while we were at recess. It is now 7 o'clock on October 21st, and we are going to move into the quarterly department head meeting. I'm going to start with the participants that are in the room with us this evening. Chief Francis, if you would like to join us at the podium, for everybody in the room that's here for the first time, when you speak into the microphone, if you can just speak about 6 or 8 inches away from the microphone so that everybody joining us online can hear you.
And we're trying to stay to like a 3 to 5 minute presentation for each presenter, please.
Yes, thank you.
Is that meant for me, Brendan?
It was not meant for you. It was meant for Jody. No.
I didn't want to say it. But. Okay, so first of all, as the chair alluded to a little earlier, we just recently had our Mass Police Accreditation Commission accreditation assessment. On the 16th, I got to stop saying the 16th through October 18th is what it was scheduled for, but it went so well that it only went 2 days. So the thing about this assessment was that this was the first time in the whole state that this edition. You good?
Sorry, somebody wasn't muted online. We're going to take care of it right now.
No worries.
Okay, sorry about that, Chief.
That's okay. So this is the first time in this whole state where the 6th edition version 1.3 was assessed by a department. It's a brand new edition for the Mass Police Accreditation Commission, and it's much more stringent than the old ones, especially when you take into account criminal justice reform changes and a lot of other changes that have gone on in the state. So after the assessment had taken place, I talked to the facilitator and the assessors, and they said to me that it went very well, that it went quicker than they expected, and that there were no real repairs, what they call them repairs when they have to go in and make a bunch of changes and do a bunch of different things. There were no real repairs. There was just a couple of policy language suggestions that they made. So now it goes before the commission, and there's 2 other people that'll see it first, and then they will vote on it. And I don't see any issues with it. I think we're going to be fine. I think it went very well. I credit Sergeant Bruce with doing a great job, as did they. I think what helps him, as you know, I used to be the accreditation manager too, but I think what helps Sergeant Bruce too is he's also an assessor. So he goes to other departments and he assesses those departments too. So you learn a lot of things from the various assessors. So that's one thing. On Sunday, September 8th, as you all know, after a year's hiatus, we had our Essex Police Department Classic Car Show. With the help of my officers, the Mass Mutters, longtime sponsors from Brookline Bank, as well as many local volunteers, we had what we believe to be our most successful classic car show to date. And this was echoed by many attendees. We did very well. We figured over 300 classic cars show up. And quite frankly, at one point, I was getting a little nervous we weren't going to be able to fit them all as they kept coming. So that worked out very well. Our search to fill a vacancy for the full-time police officer is winding down, though we just had one MPTC full-time Academy certified officer apply for the position. We're thinking positively, and I expect Detective Wee to have the final background report to me within the next few days, and I expect to have an update for the Board of Selectmen and the Town Administrator very soon, hopefully by the end of the week.
Excellent.
As you all know, for several years now, we have worked collaboratively with all the Cape Ann Police Departments, as well as Ipswich and Beverly Police Department, and along with assigned clinicians from Beth Israel Leahy Behavioral Health to provide mental health assistance when needed. And we've had a lot of mental health calls to date, especially after COVID. For officers responding to mental health calls for service, it's imperative that they're properly trained to work alongside the clinicians. In order to meet this requirement, all full-time officers attend 40 hours of JDP, which is Jail Diversion Program, CIT, Critical Incident Trauma, mental health training.
Though some of our officers had already completed the training, some are still in need of the training. Recently, on September 25th, Sergeant Bruce graduated from the 40-hour JDP CIT mental health training. We have 3 more full-time officers scheduled to attend the same 40-hour training this coming January to bring them up to speed. So most of our full-timers will have it at that point.
Do all of the full-timers end up doing that same training?
Yes.
So every one of them will have it
Every one of them will
at
have
some
to have
point?
it at some point, yeah. And we're finally getting up to speed. And there's mental health money that we're able to pay the overtime and what have you with, so. As I had mentioned in our last managers meeting, all of our officers are required to attend mandatory AAI training, which is the acronym for Active Attack Integrated Response Training for the first responder. The idea behind this training is to integrate both police and fire into proper response to a hostile intruder active shooter incident. This in part is to allow EMS to access the injured sooner in order to save lives. They've done studies on that, and there were situations where they weren't integrated and it was taking too long to get EMS in there, and unfortunately people were dying, frankly. So although this training is set to take place at Memorial School in Manchester this coming Saturday, October 26th, such a response is not solely germane to a school setting and could also be initiated in similar circumstances in many different settings. Unfortunately, since Clamfest is on the same date, we are having to send 5 officers to Linfield to do that training this coming Wednesday and Thursday. And then Saturday, we have 6 officers going with 4 of the firefighters that Chief Reeder has sent. Okay, the obstacles to our current goals and objectives. One of the struggles we have as a department is finding a balance between staffing concerns and accomplishing what we need to do to run the department on a daily basis. All this while keeping up with required training and not burning officers out due to the amount of overtime they are being required to work on a regular basis. Though we don't expect the staffing issues to go away overnight, we expect the filling of the vacant position to alleviate some of the overtime burnout concerns. We're hopeful that the officers that are scheduled, we have officers scheduled to take as I mentioned, the 40-hour CIT training this winter won't have to be taken out of the training to fill existing shifts, because that's what we've had to do in the past. I think if we fill that vacancy, it's going to help alleviate that a lot. We have 2 detectives that need to attend their required 2-week-long detectives training. In the past, we have scheduled them for the training and had to cancel to fill vacant shifts as well. At this point, Detective Edwards is currently scheduled to attend the training in April, with Detective Weway going at a later date. With the officers having to work more scheduled overtime, there is always the risk of burnout, and it has become much more difficult to fill unexpected overtime situations that come up while having to order officers in more often. This also makes it more difficult to fill details, which at times go unfilled. Expectations for the coming quarter. This fall, we will expect all officers to have completed their required AAI training, and we will continue to train with the Cape Ann region, as well as continue to meet with Manchester Essex Regional School District staff and Essex and Manchester Public Safety staff with a school safety and response training. We expect to work to create a budget that maintains a balance between offering the level of service the town has come to expect, while at the same time continuing to be fiscally responsible. And we will work with the Board of Selectmen and the Finance Committee to resolve the cruiser concerns that we have been having as of late. And work on a policy of replacing a cruiser every year to keep maintenance budgets from rising exponentially. And we can talk about the cruisers real quick. So for those that don't know, right now we're having somewhat of a cruiser crisis. We have 1 cruiser that is at Sudbury's as we speak, and there's a potential that may need a new engine, or it may need to be rebuilt. We have another cruiser that is out behind the station that needs between $7,000 and $9,000 of maintenance work, and if we have to use it in a pinch, we can, but it's not something, I've taken it out of service. So we're working with the Selectmen and the Finance Committee to resolve these issues. And we're hoping that we can resolve them soon. And then we do want to get on a program where we replace a cruiser once a year. And that's it.
Perfect. Alva, do you have any questions?
I did. So as far as the cruises go, do you have, so what are you gonna do? What if the truck breaks down tomorrow? Are we out? Is there a lending program that you can use with other towns? I don't know.
Oh, this is something if we get into that sort of a situation, we would probably talk with the sheriff's department and see if there's anything they can do for us. Worst case scenario, if I have to do it, I can bring my car in, leave my car, and I can take car 2 home in
Okay.
case they need to call me in. So there's things that we're thinking of doing. The truck seems okay right now. The check engine light's not on, so it seems like we're okay and we're using that. I'm hoping to know sooner than later from Sudbury's what's going on with car 1, which is down there. I believe it should be covered, whatever the problem is, but I'm still waiting to hear back. I did talk to them this morning, and they had just got it in.
So even if you purchase a new car tomorrow, how long does it take to get it?
It could take 3-6 months.
And then another question I have is regarding to the training, especially, Paul, where you're going to be leaving us?
Yes.
Is that all documented of who needs what, what the
Yes.
schedule is? Because it does seem like an awful lot of time that officers need to be in training versus, so is that all documented in?
It is, and it's all required. But I have Sergeant Davis is the training coordinator. He's the one that documents that. He's the one that signs them up for it. He makes sure they're put into a CADIS, which is the Municipal Police Training Committee's online training.
Right.
It doesn't just document what all of our training is.
Okay.
It documents who's certified. It documents, we actually have online training that we do. Most of I would say 30 or so hours of our required 40-hour in-service training is online. But keep in mind, 40 hours is required, but there's so much more that's required for other reasons, like the mental health training like I spoke of, like the detective stuff. I have 2 detectives. They're required under MPTC rules and regulations, they're supposed to have detective school training. They have some, but they need to go to that 2-week training. So there's things like that above and beyond.
Okay.
Okay?
I have a question.
Sure.
On the detective training, so I heard you say that Alex is going in April and Bob will go at a later date.
Yeah.
Is this a training that's only offered at certain intervals? Is this like only offered every 6 months? Or the reason I'm asking the question is it sounds like we will hopefully have a full complement of staff soon. And I'm wondering if we could get them to go sooner. Like,
If we can do it, we will. They don't always offer it on a regular basis, and sometimes it's like, for instance, the training that we're doing this weekend and the one where the officers are going to Linfield, originally that wasn't offered here, that was offered in Uxbridge. So we were going to have to send officers all the way to Uxbridge. That's the problem. If we can find the training closer and we can schedule it without the whole thing being overtime, or those officers that are going having to work doubles every day, counting the training, then we will certainly do that.
thank you.
Okay.
I appreciate that.
Yep.
Thank you.
Good.
Yes, thank you. Ms. Harris, would you like to join us at the podium? Do I need to remind you that it's 3 to 5 minutes?
Times 2.
Oh, yes,
You forgot.
I forgot.
I'll talk fast.
Okay, perfect.
Just a very quick update on economic development. We discussed the businesses are really concerned about our flooding situation in the downtown mixed-use district. So Brendan gave us a report on coastal resilience, talking about Beyond Mobility being interested in assisting Essex in developing a scope of services to address coastal flooding issues. They're also going to do a traffic study, and they're looking to present a scope of services this fall to us. We also have a meeting, Brendan and Ruth and I have been meeting with the chamber, who is interested in attending our meetings and working together collaboratively on several issues. So they are most interested in discussing the causeway and looking at other business-related topics. Our really big news for economic development is the pavilion at Centennial Grove, which obviously you've discussed, but the roof is on and it has the temporary occupancy permit. We are still looking for a permanent electricity to be brought to the pavilion, and again, a lot of this is through volunteer effort. So we do have electrical poles on site, but really need to get them installed so we can get permanent lighting. Additionally, the restrooms are also being built post and beam in the same manner as the pavilion, thanks to all of our local volunteers, Dan Mayer and his crew, and a volunteer architect, the wood's being sent to Maine to be milled, and the tight tanks have been installed and backfilled. Again, local plumbers and electricians, countless volunteer hours, and I think Brendan put a crazy price tag of at least $500,000 of the pavilion value for very little of taxpayer money. So for that, we're grateful. We're hoping that the pavilion rental program will begin this spring, and I have economic development members who are developing that process to rent. We would do a very similar program to Manchester, where we would offer it to Essex residents first before we actually put it out to others to rent. So we're excited and eternally grateful to all the volunteers who have put in so many hours. So our goals and objectives and expectations coming up for the next quarter are sort of rolled into one. We are continuing to work on a guide to doing business, which is a much bigger project, I think, than we first anticipated. And so I have been working with and interviewing some business owners in town to get feedback and have them help us with that guide to doing business. And we have parceled out pieces of that to various committee members. I think that we look forward to working collaboratively with the chamber on projects that we feel that it's something Economic Development Committee can actually tackle, and we will report back the next quarterly meeting. Okay, that was really quick, not 5 minutes. Finance Committee, I get to use my extra time with Finance Committee. So we've been meeting much more often on Finance Committee than they're used to. I think we met throughout the summer, and our main goal and objective for this year, next quarter, the entire year, is to work more closely with departments, department heads, and a specific liaison so that we can work with them throughout the year, understand what they do, how they do it, what their needs are, where they have capital needs, where we're talking personnel, we're talking capital, we look at job descriptions, we are going soup to nuts so that we are not coming in once a year in January or February and looking for budget and do the proverbial drive-by, hit and run for the budget and move on. So we have started with the police department, we've started with DPW, we will be working with the fire department next, as they had some requests. So as you know, the fire department had been on your agenda several times over the last couple of months to come and discuss their needs. And unfortunately, they weren't able to meet with the Board of Selectmen. The fall town meeting had a placeholder for a tanker truck, and they were hoping for a grant. They had applied for the grant twice. They did not receive the grant. This is the second year in a row they didn't receive the grant. It was removed from the warrant several weeks ago, and then a week ago, the Finance Committee received a request to put the tanker back on, and in addition to that, a wage and salary schedule adjustment. We're 30 days out from fall town meeting, so I went back and spoke to Chief Reeder, and we discussed the need for looking for either another grant for the tanker truck or looking for some other support other than the $1,200 taxpayers in Essex. It is my understanding that there are 5 tanker trucks in eastern Massachusetts, and they support all of these communities. So we're doing some data mining to find out how often our tanker truck goes out on mutual aid and who has, full water service versus they don't have full water service, and who we're actually supporting. So we're going to work closely with the fire department to see if we can find another way to, instead of 100% financing it through the Essex taxpayers. Additionally, the wage and salary schedule is an issue. For those who don't know, we have a call fire department. Their wage is quite low, and we are having trouble having people actually answer the calls. So the fire chief submitted some documentation looking at other salaries, hourly wages, and the finance committee, although we understand their plight, couldn't undertake that 30 days out from fall town meeting. So it will be on the top of our list for the fire department meetings and hopefully for annual town meeting. What we're doing is building out a complete full-time fire department model so that we know what that looks like and that would look like to the taxpayers. And then we're going to back into where they are today with their wage and step through potential scenarios on how we can improve that wage, and whether it's all at once or over time. It's going to take a little bit of work. So Chief Reeder and I discussed it again tonight, and he's fine with that plan as long as we keep moving forward with that. The Finance Committee has been working with Chief Francis very closely on the fleet in the police department. So Finance Committee met last week, and we again support the replacement of 2 vehicles in the fleet. The Finance Committee is still waiting for further information because Car 1 is still in the shop, and we understand Car 2 has been sidelined, and the original request was for the pickup truck. The Finance Committee is truly in favor of replacing 2 line cars, fully pursuit-ready line cars, and then really getting on a schedule of annually replacing 1 vehicle in this rotation so that we're not in this situation again. So the chief and I had a sidebar conversation. We will hopefully in the next week have the situation shaken out with Car 1, and we can make some decisions. We do have quotes in front of us, and straw poll, the Finance Committee supports 2 line vehicles. So the placeholder right now is $141,000. We will continue to review the monetary articles at our next Finance Committee meeting. We have not determined exactly what our contribution would be to OPEB. It's got a placeholder of $200,000. We're inching, toward that $4 million mark. I think we're at $2.6 million, which would, we continually contribute as much as possible, and it's been a goal of the Finance Committees for many years to get us to that $4 million threshold or thereabouts. We also have not discussed exactly how much we'd like to put in the Vehicles and Major Equipment Fund. Right now, it has $2,725, so all of our vehicle replacement is coming straight out of free cash. We'd like to start putting money away, but again, we have some monetary articles on here that haven't been fleshed out yet, so as soon as we get a little bit closer, we're hoping it happens before town meeting, the meeting before that. We're hoping it's in November, the first week in November, but we'll see. We're hoping, too, that we get to see the release of the downtown decorative lighting funds. That'll go back to free cash, Brendan, once we release those funds.
Well, it will come down to the selectmen determining whether they want to declare the project not going forward I mean, they closed out the project, but they haven't yet discussed whether they should tell the town accountant that the project will not be considered in some other fashion.
Okay.
But it's something that I can bring up even at the next meeting with them, see what they say.
I think at this point, our financial position, we would like to see some of that money roll back so that we could use it to put it into vehicle stabilization account, OPEB. So it would be.
Well, is it something you'd like to see for this fall town meeting? And so instead of coming out of free cash, some of that money could be actually reprogrammed directly to buy some of the things you want. Is that something you were looking to do?
Well, we're at the point where if you want to look at the design for the fuel depot, it depends on what some of these numbers are, but we are planning on funding a minimum of $200,000 into OPEB, and I know my other finance committee members are always gung-ho at putting as much as we possibly can in there, but I also believe that we may have some other vehicle needs coming up from the fire department, and then if we are committed to replacing a cruiser once a year, we'd like to build up that vehicle stabilization fund again.
Yeah, so there's about $350,000 that could be reprogrammed, and the selectmen are going to discuss the draft town meeting motions at their next meeting. So if you feel that it's appropriate for them to consider reprogramming that money, it would simply be in the motion at town meeting, because that money is not contractually obligated.
Well, I think it's time for the town to be able to access the funds and use it for some of the needs that we have in front of us. Other than that, we are going to continue to meet more often, assist department heads, and we're extremely happy so far with our new town accountant, Michaela Nolan. She's working out great. We are rolling out the budget very soon. She's already started working on the budget. We are hoping to get the budget out early and get the budget back from department heads early so that we have a little more time, so we're not squeezed on the other side by the school budget, because we always seem to be a little bit behind that budgeting process. So we are using the same model as we did before, which is spreadsheet system. We did look at a piece of software, Chuck and Michaela and I, for budgeting, which is of some interest to not only the town accountant, but I think the FinCom would be quite interested in it. It would be a little bit better budgeting tool, but the grant, I think, that would have paid for that, we had utilized somewhere else. So we have kept that on our radar because we are still interested in that. We are still also interested in reviewing the town accounting software to see if it's meeting our needs and whether we need to make some sort of changes. So Michaela's still fairly new with that. I've asked Chuck if he could write me a one-page document on his assessment of the two systems and how they align with the needs of the town accountant. Any questions?
Alva, do you have any questions?
No.
Did you say yes or no?
No.
No.
Sorry. No.
Okay, I don't have questions either. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Brooke, would you like to join us?
You don't have to remind me to keep it under 5 minutes.
I knew I didn't have to. I knew. I'm looking in this room and I'm like, oh, Brooke's like, how can I do this in under 30 seconds?
We'll see how I do. As far as recent achievements, I feel like my job is very cyclical, so every time I come to you, I'm saying similar things, but we did get the second quarter tax bills out at the beginning of the month. They are due on November 4th this year because November 1st is a Friday. And since the building is closed, you have until November 4th to pay your second quarter tax bill. The payments are already steadily coming in. Other recent achievements are the auditors were here in September, which from my perspective went very well. I think we now just sort of wait to hear from them for many months. And also the DOR reporting that I have to do this time each year was all submitted earlier than in past years, so that was exciting. As far as obstacles and concerns, there are new laws regarding tax title legislation that are going into effect November 1st. So that is a concern because there are a lot of changes to the notices and the forms and the interest rate, and it's basically makes it a lot more complicated than it already was. And so all the treasurer collectors are freaking out about that a little bit. But the legislative committee has been working on it a lot. The software companies are working on it. And there is a recent legislative proposal to try to push the changes to July 1st instead of November 1st, which I'm really hoping for. It doesn't make sense to me to change something so big in the middle of a fiscal year. So I'm hopeful that, we only have a couple weeks to see if that comes through, but I'm hopeful that that will get pushed so that everyone has time to sort out better how it should be handled. As far as expectations for the coming quarter, now we'll work on getting all the second quarter bills in, and then we look forward to the third. This is the time where we have to do a lot of waiting while the assessors sort out values, and then the accountant sets the tax rate, and then we charge ahead from there. And long-term goals, I think I've mentioned this before, but I will be applying for my collector certification next year, so that will take up some time with courses and things like that. So, any questions?
Excellent. Any questions, Alva?
No.
No? Me neither. Thank you so much. Carla, would you like to join us?
Hello, everybody. I'm going to talk about the library for a little bit. Some of our recent achievements are, so our big statistical and financial reporting all comes between August and October to the State Board of Library Commissioners, who oversees all the libraries in Massachusetts. So some of the highlights of our August reporting, we showed an increase in print and physical circulation over the last fiscal year, really an increase across the board in our library loan, circulation of ebooks and audiobooks. Everything is up from between sort of 4% to in the 20% range even. So continued strong use of our library by our Essex patrons and beyond. Our museum passes, which are super popular, we increased that by 14% this year as well. In terms of programs, when you look at FY24 as a whole, we offered 175 live programs and events. This is all right in line with FY23. We had about 2,100 people attend across all of those. So the library sees heavy use. Any of you that spend any time in the parking lot know that. We also wrapped up summer reading, so that was towards the middle to end of August. I'll talk about that more in just a minute. We actually took some quiet time this summer over the 4th of July holiday to do some revamping downstairs, some moving around, so new fiction, new nonfiction, really, thinking about the space, making the best possible use of what's there. We also did some work in the children's section too, to sort of make some things easier to access, open it up a little bit. And then in September, so a couple of weeks ago now, we restarted our fall programs, which are the Adult Book Club, and then all of our weekly children's programming. In the last quarter, so July through September, we saw 33 events with almost 300 people participating, and it's summer, so it looks different. Mostly summer-type programming, summer reading events, teen events. We have a lot of really popular teen things that happen in the summer. And then our college essay writing workshops that happen every year, which are very popular as well. So in terms of summer reading, I reported on some of this last time, but we were right in the middle of it. So we had 175 kids and teens, so that's sort of, first grade through high school, sign up. 88 of those kids and teens completed, so the kids get the tickets to the Topsfield Fair, super popular. Teens got something else, and then an additional about 20 kids participate. They don't necessarily finish, meet the goal, but it's important that they're trying, so we like to acknowledge that. We celebrated the end of summer reading with a World's Fair, which was really amazing, and we had great local volunteers. I specifically want to thank Lynn and Jay Havighurst. They brought this amazing international music collection, musical instrument collection, and the Musery in South Hamilton also participated. So it was a really, really wonderful way to end the summer. I don't have any obstacles to report right now. In terms of the coming quarter, we're fairly well into it here. So as I mentioned, all of our regular weekly programming has started again. We do 3 morning programs a week on Mondays and Wednesdays for young children. That's a mix of our own, and then we participate in a DESE-funded grant through Hamilton Wenham, and they do programming at a lot of local libraries, and we're one of the sites for that, so that's really great. So that's every Monday and Wednesday right now. Up next, the end of October is busy because of Halloween a little bit, but we've got lots of interesting programs going on. Bugs, Professor Bugman, Jody, this one is for you. Lots of live bugs you can come hold, giant millipedes and centipedes and all kinds of crazy things. We will make sure they are all accounted for. We're also, we have a reading dog. I'm sure lots of you have seen the reading dog, Jackson. Jackson's birthday is next week, so we're actually having a little birthday party for Jackson the reading dog. It'll be a good time. November, we'll bring Wingmasters are bringing a Birds of Prey program, and then some armchair travel to Central Asia with a recent MERSD grad, actually, who had a really interesting internship in Central Asia and traveled pretty extensively. She's going to talk about that. This should actually come next time, but I'm just going to report on it now. Our state financial and compliance reporting all happens in early October, so it's done. And the good news is that we're in full compliance with all state policies and regulations, and we'll retain our state certification for this fiscal year. I'm starting to build the FY26 budget. So we'll continue to talk with Jody and her team as we pull that together. We do have some close dates coming up because of the holidays, so just more than usual in November and December. And the next really big thing I'm working on for this quarter is to finish our strategic planning. Every 5 years, we have to submit a new strategic plan to the state, and ours is due in December. So we've worked a lot with the community, adults and children. We've done focus groups. I'm working with the staff over the next couple of weeks to think about our strategic goals, and that'll be submitted in early December. In terms of longer-term goals, I've talked about this before, but it's becoming more real now that I've gotten through those really big financial and compliance reporting areas. We're going to do some technology upgrades in FY25. Our circulation computers, specifically that pair, will be replaced, and then those computers will actually move to the public station. So we have sort of a transfer program that helps the technology move through, so everyone's got something. And the ramp will be addressed, I know, coming up soon, and I've got a quote coming in for the window in the library that took a baseball in September. Just the storm on the outside, not the interior window. It's fine in terms of weather, but is broken. So that, I think, is my report for right now. Any questions?
No questions from me.
None for me either.
All
Thank
right.
you so much.
Excellent, thanks.
Tess?
Hello there. I am very happy to say we are fully staffed. and able to offer a variety of services and programs. I feel very fortunate to have Jennifer Weston and Alina Franklin, both Essex residents, as my colleagues. Currently, it is Medicare open enrollment time, so I encourage Medicare recipients to make an appointment and have your plans reviewed. Every year, we save close to $50,000 for Essex residents, so it is worth the time. I'd like to thank the police and DPW for recently designating 5 parking spaces right outside the senior center. It'll make it a lot easier for people. We have a couple of handicap spaces, but to have these designated for Monday through Friday, 9 to 3, should make a real difference for us. So thank you. We recently hosted our health fair. We had several vendors and partners who came to showcase their services. I'd like to particularly thank the Board of Health. They came and offered vaccinations, and I think they had maybe 50, a little more than that, but it was a very good turnout, and I appreciate their help. We're already planning for next year. Our volunteers continue to offer their time and talent to serve our seniors, and their monthly hours are the equivalent of 2 full-time staff. Clearly, we could not do what we do without their assistance. Our Friends group is very active in supporting our efforts. I'm sure you've seen the scarecrows all around town. That's one of the community fundraisers. Be sure to vote for your favorites. They're also getting ready for the annual boutique, which is always the first weekend in November, and this year it's actually November 1st through 3rd, so get ready right after Halloween. This fundraiser, the boutique in particular, provides significant resources for the COA throughout the year, so we appreciate your sponsorship. The COA, we send a monthly newsletter to 900 households. It contains a lot of detailed information and specifics for social services, for activities and programs available in the region. I encourage you to read it. If you don't get it, give us a call and we'll put you on the mailing list. We recently collaborated with UMass Boston to create a survey focusing on the needs of Essex residents, particularly as we age and see the senior population growing. Every resident age 18 and older should have received a printed copy in the mail with a return envelope. You can also fill out that survey online. It's available on the homepage of the town website. There's a link. We also have printed copies at the senior center for anyone who either didn't receive it or doesn't have it and would like to fill it out. We would really appreciate your input. It will make a big difference in our planning for the next 5 years. Coming up is also our annual Veterans Gallery. That will be kicking off on Wednesday, November 6th with our special Veterans Breakfast. Bruce Tarr will be there, and I encourage everyone to come to the gallery. It'll be open during our regular hours, Monday through Friday, 9 to 3. We always, all new photos are added every year. This year we even have some videos to show. So it's a really special time to honor the veterans, and Sue Parody in particular has done just a wonderful job with that, and I encourage people to come. We even have scavenger hunts that you can do. So I think budget-wise, we are a quarter of the way through the year, yes, and we are right on target, I think, knock on wood. And I think that's it. Any questions?
No questions for me.
No questions.
Thank you, Tess.
Thank you.
Thank you for all you do. Cliff, would you like to join us?
Evening, everybody.
Good evening.
So I got a few notes out. So in terms of recent achievements from Conservation Commission, we've extended an offer to a new agent who's currently a full-time agent in Leominster, and we're trying to figure out, he's being completely transparent with them that he wants to keep his full-time job there and also provide services to us. So we're trying to see how that works out. As you know, we've been continually challenged to meet the needs of our constituents because we're only offering somewhere in that neighborhood of 8 hours a week for professional services for a conservation agent. So to put that in perspective of our town meeting warrant article, we are trying to raise money as a board so we can offset the professional cost of a conservation agent. And if you were to compare the cost of a conservation agent, with benefits and everything, you're talking about $40 an hour typically. And I know the town doesn't typically offer that type of a wage, but as I said, we're challenged to fill that position, and it does come down to money. So we're hoping to be able to appeal to town meeting so we can get extra funding for an appropriately credentialed conservation agent going forward. Because in the interim, board members have been doing site inspections and playing the role of agent, which none of the board members are empowered by town meeting to do any of that. But the board still has to run and function, and we still have to meet our constituent demands to do site inspections and enforce the Wetlands Protection Act. So our short-term goals are the same as our goals have always been, is to meet the needs of our community with a very limited budget and our inability to apparently get professional services of an agent who is consistently available to the town. So that continues to remain a challenge. The broader picture, we have the first open space development in front of us, and our board is already at capacity in providing any type of service to the town. Like I said, we can't even retain an agent. We don't have the appropriate resources, I believe. So in terms of the development off of Apple Street on the previously owned Van Wyck property that's before the town, we did request in writing that when the town does get funding for the soft costs on the municipal side, that we are provided with the adequate resources. We would need to do a very deep and thorough review of the ecological resources on that site. I think there's a tacit understanding when a developer comes before the town and they want to put in 36 units of housing, and they're using the town zoning to justify the proposed amount. When they first come out of the gate, I do believe that they understand that there will be some reduction in the number of units ultimately built. So I believe that does fall to the Conservation Commission to provide the town with the absolutely most granular and appropriate amount of due diligence in approaching the development, which could potentially add 36 new townhome style buildings to Essex, which would be a very large and impactful development. And our board is committed to seeing both development and conservation of natural resources per the Wetlands Protection Act. So the board will definitely need the appropriate resources to look at the acreage there and make sure that when the developer says he can put in 30 homes so he can get his bonus of 20% and put in 36 homes, that baseline of 30 homes that he's proposing, we want to look good and hard at that, and we suspect that number will, through proper due diligence, will somehow change in the future. And I think that's an optimistic number by the developer. Again, that's my opinion, but our job as a board is to thoroughly review the development process and make sure that the initial proposal of 30 dwellings meets the standard to begin with. So those are our long-term goals. Thank you.
Thank you, Cliff. Just for clarification for anybody listening that's hearing Conservation Co-Chair Cliff Agaloff speaking about this development, I just want to, because we are being recorded and people do watch this meeting and they may even be broadcasting at this point, this is called an OSRD. It's an open space residential development. There is a developer that's looking at the 84 acres, which is actually at the end of Essex Park Road, formerly the Van Wyck property, as Cliff mentioned. But it is a large parcel. It's 84 acres. And that developer has met with the required departments at a planning board meeting that was posted. There was representation from all of the required departments that are outlined in that bylaw. And currently, what sits before them is the potential for 36 four-bedroom homes. So that, in the Conservation Commission, will play a big part in that, because on that 84 acres, there's quite a bit of wetlands. So
For those at home listening, the 36 homes with the, is based on the predication that they can put 30 homes on the existing 80-plus acres.
correct.
So the Conservation Commission is required to evaluate the 30-home subdivision, and then the developer will get to put in 36 homes, but on a quarter of the space being proposed. So instead of carving up the 84 acres into 30 house lots, he'll move everything into 20 acres, but he'll put 36 homes on the 20 acres. That's a rough cut at how that would work. But he only gets to put the 36 homes on the 8 acres if he can, in fact, put 30 homes on the 80 acres. So the Conservation Commission's job is to review a project that may not actually get built, but it's a tool for the developer to go forward and then justify his bonus of putting in 6 more homes, but on a smaller section of land, and thereby leaving a large portion of the property undeveloped. So the idea is to meet the goal of more housing, but also preserving open space and woodland. So the twin goals of conservation and development can live side by side, which our board is in favor of ultimately.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Elwood, do you have questions?
No.
No.
Cliff, I have one question. So the agent that you're talking about, that would be a town employee? It's just a question for town meeting. You're not looking to reprogram the wage line that you have for the agent right now as a contracted service expense. That person that you're talking about would be coming in as a town employee?
We would have to hire them directly, and I'm not sure what the wage cap is on that. But we need
Right now, that's in the wage and salary scale, but if you were going to hire them
Yes, I believe we offered him the top of the wage scale that's pre-programmed.
as a town employee.
As a town employee.
Yeah, because the
yes.
other way to do it, and you don't have to, but there was some discussion about potentially changing it to a contracted service, so you'd be paying a consultant. Town meeting would have to vote to reprogram that from a town employee wage line to an expense line.
Right now we are using it as a wage line. and
Okay,
not
so I
as
don't
a-
need to account for that.
Right,
Okay,
and
thank
that-
you.
If we did that and we were going to hire a consultant, it would, because this current venture doesn't pan out, and we realize we need to get a consultant, and we won't be able to hire an employee for 8 hours.
Just let me know before November 18th if you have to do
Yeah,
that.
it won't be for this town meeting. We have
Okay.
we have a wage offer to somebody based on the wage that is that's baked into our budget.
Yeah, okay.
So long-term in the future, if this doesn't work out, we'll have a different conversation, most likely to see if we can do better going out to the marketplace for a consultant.
Yep, okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
And are there consultants out there?
Pardon?
Is there consultants out there, like, is there rules or regulations? I don't know what,
Yeah, there are many consultants that will do that type of work, but it generally is going to cost even more than a
Right.
town employee.
Yeah, our wishful would be to find some younger person who's starting out their business and would be charging $50 to $75 an hour as a sole proprietor, as opposed to $150 an hour, where they basically have a staff member come and service the town. So, yeah, we've been unable to have consistently staffed position in the agent slot for some time since Ken Whitaker left. It's been difficult, and I feel that it's a real gap in our service. I'm a very big believer in constituent services, which is why I'm always texting board members and myself going out on field inspections to close out orders and conditions and issue certificates of compliance. I mean, it's really it's a DIY Conservation Commission right now. Yeah,
yep.
thank you.
Right.
Thank you for your service, Cliff. I do know how much time you spend in the field. Mr. Novak, would you like to join us? And Sharon as well.
gate, as you can see. Well, let's see, we'll do the easy part first. The truck's fine, the boat's fine. Now comes the fun part. The dredging, I don't know where they're gonna be dredging, but I'm sure that the dredging is gonna cause problems with the shellfish industry. Because as certain banks creep out into the channel, the clams go where the bank is. And I know across from Town Nub, do you know where the Town Nub is, Chief? Town Nub? Well, all right. Well, anyways, across from Town Nub, it's when you go past Lanes Creek, if you're not paying attention, you go into this dead end, you gotta back up and go around. Well, that's got about, maybe 2,000 baby razor clams on it. And if they dredge it out, well, they're gone. But I understand, dredging is dredging. The situation for the industry is pretty dire right now. Like, I've never seen it this bad in my life. Because 2 years ago, we didn't have any rain closures from May to October. And so they dig. Fishermen, whether fin fishermen or shell fishermen, are all greedy. You hear that right on TV. They never know when to stop. You know what I'm saying? They don't live for tomorrow. They get every clam they can get their hands on. But that's okay. They stay within the limits and they just work all the time, The problem is this, and the town and the state put up money to catch green crabs. They've done it in a couple of years now, and it's very beneficial to remove these predators from the waters, but it's like putting a finger in the dike. It's amazing the amount of green crabs that are out there. And the crabs are causing decimation everywhere. And they're trying to nip under the nets we get out to catch seed. They cut the roots on the eelgrass and it falls in. It's not erosion from the boats. It's from the crabs have figured out that tastes good. So they're attacking the banks. I showed it to Peter one day. I couldn't believe it. And I don't know what the answer is. I have two gentlemen that they crabbed all summer when the state had a bounty and the town generously matched it. Now they're still crabbing, and they're trading bags of crabs back and forth because they can't keep up with the demand for the crabs for bait. But every time they go out, they come in with a full load. And every female crab has the potentiality to lay 1,000 babies. You can't beat those odds.
Wow.
So I don't know what to say, pretty much, I've got some nets out. I got 11 nets out there. They're shaped like this tabletop. When you get to the edge of the net, it's barren. Under the nets, it's all loaded. And I'm just like, well, what are you going to lift the nets? That's the only place we have that we're making new babies from. So they're not going to be lifted for a couple of years. I don't know what is going to happen. I've talked to shellfish constables in Gloucester and Ipswich and Raleigh. I've talked to the clammers too. Nobody has any seed anywhere. Maybe it's a combination of the green crabs and the water temperature. I don't know. But nobody's hit 250 pounds, and there's no such thing as the 2-inch timber. Everything of these, oh my God, now. So a lot of guys have given up on it for the time being. I would like to sometimes sit down with you people. I don't know if I have to do it in public like this, or we can sit before a town meeting and give us some ideas of what proposals I have about what we could do to help to try to remedy the situation. And I don't know where would be appropriate for that to do.
I think that would be a great meeting for you, the town administrator, and Selectman Fippen. Would be a good place to start in Brendan's office.
All right, well, we can set it up. I'll let you guys set it up and let me know.
Selectman Fippen tends to handle all of our environmentally related conversations.
He's very good at that.
And then if it's bigger and it needs a board vote, they'll bring it back to the full board. But I think that you could certainly get his input initially.
Exactly. Okay. And I've passed everything on the heart operation, as you're well aware of. The Taver valve finally took after they almost killed me the first time. Too bad. That's good. Now I've got the either physical or occupational therapist coming, and I've got to build up leg strength in my left leg. And I'm thinking about another week and a half or so, and I'll be raring to go back in.
Well, I am thrilled to see you. When you came through that elevator this evening, had a big smile. I love seeing you up and about and doing good, so I'm glad surgery went well.
I'm getting around as fast as I can right now, but I'm getting around.
Well, and we're grateful to your assistants that have been picking up those hours to help you be able to recover.
Right. All right, that's all I have to say now. And Brenda, you'll get a hold of me when the meeting?
Yes.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Novak. All right, I'm going to turn online, starting at the top. I see that we have Town Planner Valerie Massard with us. Val, if you want to unmute and give a report if you have one.
Hi, can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Okay. I work part-time as the town planner, and I've been doing what I can to support the planning board in their amazing efforts to tackle the zoning issues in town. We got good news today that we're gonna get the GAP 3 grant and about $109,000. I was working on the final reporting for that. And longer term, I'm helping out with the affordable housing plan, the housing production plan. And also, we're hoping to hear on a grant from the EEA on updating the open space plan. And so the other thing that we're working on is possibly an MVP plan grant application later this fall. And that's it.
Thank you, Val. Alva, do you have any questions for Val?
I'll be honest, I really do not hear that.
It's so, Val, just so you know, the speakers in the room on the third floor are a little bit tough with the phone. I got the gist of what you were saying, and I appreciate you mentioned MAPC, the housing production plan, the zoning work that you've been doing, and I just want to take a moment to thank you. Honestly, the work that you've done with the planning board has been amazing. Previously, the town planner didn't work with the planning board, and when you came on as a staff member, they had a dire need to have some help with the zoning initiative, and I know that Chairman O'Donnell is grateful for everything you've been able to provide to them. So just again, thank you so much. You've brought us really far as a support staff member to the planning board, so I am eternally grateful for that, and I look forward to working with you on the Affordable Housing Trust. And I know Chairman Harris is in the room from the EDC, and she's grateful for the work that you're doing with them as well. So just a little plug there.
Thank you.
And next we have Erin Kirchner from the Board of Health. Erin, if you want to unmute and give us your report.
Hi, how's it going?
Great.
So we've just sort of been treading water in the last couple of months. I'm super busy with field work outside of the office, which means I'm not in the office answering questions, answering the phone, reviewing septic plans. Jeff has been amazing. We also lost our longtime food inspector, Bobby Cody, who retired a couple of months ago. We did just recently hire a new contracted food inspector. Her name is Carolina Ben Cosme. She started about 2 weeks ago. She works, she's full-time for the Andover Health Department. She's well-versed in all aspects of public health and health inspections and food inspections. So I'm confident that she will quickly get us back up to speed or back on track with our food, routine food inspections. As Tess mentioned, we did a small vaccine clinic at the senior center last week. It's vaccine clinic season. So we've also done small targeted clinics at Tobacco Terrace and at the Public Safety Building. Our primary clinic will be this Saturday during Clam Fest, and we never know how many people we're gonna have until we see the weather report, which I guess that's how Clam Fest goes too. So it's gonna be nice out. I think we're gonna be super busy. So we'll do our clinic outside. We have flu and COVID vaccine. We also have, the other types of routine vaccines that people occasionally forget that they need, such as tetanus. We have shingles vaccine. We have hepatitis B vaccine. If you know anyone who needs a home visit, flu or COVID shot, reach out to me or reach out to Elsa, and she can take care of those people as well. So we want to make sure we're connecting with people who are at home for whatever reason, whether they have mobility issues or they're immunocompromised. we're still doing home visit vaccine clinics. And once we're done with those, things kind of slow down in the late fall, early winter. So my intention is to bring more of my attention back to the OSHA compliance. I think we're going to hear pretty soon whether we got any sort of award from the Department of Industrial Accident Safety Grant. We applied for about just under 25,000. I think we're going to get less than 5,000. But once we see what we get, then we can figure out what we're going to do with it and how to make up the difference in those types of the trainings that people need. I'll also be working with the department heads to update the written safety programs that we update every year and a half or so, such as the exposure control plan with the first responders and the hazard communication plan with chemicals with the water department. And I'm also going to try getting more of the free training sessions that Maya offers to be offered closer to home. A lot of the trainings happening right now are in Western Mass and the South Shore, which isn't realistic for our already very short-staffed DPW, which is mainly who the trainings are targeted towards. Let's see, as far as the grants go, thank you for signing the IMA. I was online when you guys signed or, voted to sign and approve that. We have had the benefit of a full-time social worker for over a year. She's amazing. She does group and individual programs for things like grief support and caregiver support groups. She's also part of the wellness committee at Manchester Essex High School, and she has a lot of good ideas. She has an intern for this school year, graduate student of social work. Sorry, I'm tired. So she has another woman working with her for the school year, and she has a lot of good ideas too. So I think once they get rolling, once the IMA is fully approved and we can do a little bit more, I think they're going to really be great. We've been without a full-time shared public health nurse for, I don't know, a year, 14 months or something like that since Rachel Lee left. We have been without a full-time shared health inspector. We've never had the benefit of a full-time shared health inspector. So hopefully, again, I hope the updated agreement with the other 3 communities who are sharing this public health excellence grant will help expedite getting those 2 positions posted and hired and staffed so we can do more programming and outreach rather than still just treading water with inspections and reviewing septic plans and things like that. So I'm really hoping we can take more advantage of the public health excellence grant once we have a little bit more regional oversight of what's going on. And other than that, there aren't any new grants I'm aware of. I don't know. I think that's it. Do you guys have any questions?
I don't have any questions. Thank you, Erin. And
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Before we move on to Chairman O'Donnell, I do want to mention, looking in the room, looking online, I don't see that we have any other department heads except Chairman O'Donnell. So I do want to mention that the Board of Public Works, this school committee, or the vice chair of the school committee for MERSD, as well as the representative for Essex North Shore Agricultural and Technical School, they all did send in a written report to the Board of Selectmen, which has been shared with the board. Some of them are lengthy. I'm not going to go into reading them. I'm just going to acknowledge that we did receive those 3 reports, and thank you to the people that sent those in. So I'm going to now move on to Chairman O'Donnell, if you want to unmute and give your report.
Hi, I'll be brief. Recent achievements, we have 2 articles on the warrant. The first is additional definitions, which are updating for a lot of the special permit categories that we approved last time. And the AG did approve all our articles from May's annual town meeting. So those are all good to go, and they'll be incorporated into the bylaw shortly, the official version online. And then, so that's the first article that the planning board has, which is Article 2. Got a lot of help on those from Val, as you mentioned, Ruth. And then the big article, Article number 3, is proposing residential districts in Essex. And I can talk about that for hours. So I will send you to the planning board website that Teresa Whitman has done an amazing job keeping updated with all our various documents. All the information is there. The warrant articles with the maps as they will show up in the warrant, along with the full-size map in color that shows all the districts together. So that's all online for people to take a look at. And we will be, in the next couple of weeks, trying to have a few more outreach meetings set up, just sort of informal workshop like we did before, but now it's all set. But this is just to answer questions and explain things. We do have the open space residential development that Cliff and Ruth have both talked about, so I don't need to explain that. The planning board does oversee the process and work directly with the applicant. And one of the first steps that we'll be taking is engaging technical consultants, as Cliff mentioned, but we have a whole gamut of different expertise that we need, from traffic studies, because it's actually at the end of Essex Park Road, it's not off Apple Street, because half of Apple Street is Turtleback, and Turtleback has an easement and an access to this property, but the main access is off Essex Park Road, which opens directly onto Western Ave. So traffic's going to be a concern. They need to look at it. Obviously, all the environmental concerns, just the civil engineering aspects of it, stormwater management, the road layout, all those kind of things, fire access. So we'll be hiring probably a couple of different consultants to do that. The town does not pay for these. The applicant pays for them. So that's part of the process, is that they pay for the consultants that we need to review their plans. As Cliff mentioned too, the way the OSRD works is there is a conventional subdivision plan that they have to submit, which proves out how many lots they could build conventionally, and then that is used as a basis for estimating the lots that they're allowed to have for the open space development. So that's going to be ongoing. The process will probably start shortly. There is a preliminary subdivision plan that gets submitted and a 45-day review period for the planning board. So that process doesn't actually involve any public interaction, but we're going to try and make sure that we're giving people access to our meetings, and people are able to ask questions and whatever else. So that's all still in the works. We're planning that out. After the preliminary subdivision, then the applicant has to do their full size, their full set of plans, and that is their definitive subdivision plan that gets submitted, and that's a much longer process. It does involve a public hearing, a butter notification, and a lot of those processes, because at the end of that we end up writing a special permit in addition to approving the subdivision, since the OSRD is different than a normal subdivision. Anyway, stay tuned on that one. So that's, I guess, sort of what's coming up. And long-term goals, we're going to be continuing to do bylaw improvements depending on what happens in May with residential zoning districts, but there's still more work on the bylaw that we want to do. And the other sort of big news in zoning is ADUs are coming. The state's affordable housing bill, I'm not sure what it's called, affordable housing bill, but anyway, it by state mandate allows ADUs on single family properties throughout the state as of right. So that is a state right. Whatever other regulations go around ADUs can be decided on by the town. So the planning board will be working on that to bring something to Maytown meeting on that, since the ADU law will go into effect on February 2nd, 2025. So that's all I got.
Thank you, Lisa. Alva, do you have any questions?
I do not.
Okay, thank you. And since I announced that we did not have any more department heads online, it looks like Holly Dash has dialed in. Holly, do you want to unmute and give a report from the clerk's office?
Sure. So I was dialed in, but wasn't on there for some reason. Can you hear me?
We can hear you. Go ahead.
Okay. So we got out all the early ballots. We sent about 700 of them out within the last week, and we still have more coming in. We were able to get all the sandwich and boards outside posted about early voting. We had a pretty decent turnout on Saturday, and today about 50 total. Working with Pamela and Mickey on getting everything done for the election. I think we're in pretty good shape. We have volunteers for all the in-person voting. We're staffed pretty well for the poll. I do need to get more volunteers for advanced removal on the 1st, the opening of ballots and reading names and stuff off like that. But other than that, I think we're in pretty good shape.
Great. Eva, do you have any questions?
I do not.
All right. Thank you, Holly.
Thank you.
So that concludes the department head meeting. The only piece of the agenda that we have remaining is public comment. So if there's anybody online or in the room that wants to make public comment, you may unmute yourself and speak now. Nobody? Okay. Alva, do you have a question?
I do for BZ. So, Brendan, we've been talking about a new town website. Is that correct? You were saying
Yes, the platform of the town website, excuse me, which is on a platform called Drupal 7, is going to be upgraded because Drupal 7 is going end of life. So our vendor, toward the end of this year, is going to actually be updating the platform. I believe we're going to see more benefit on the back end. It's not like the website presentation to the public is going to change all that much.
Okay.
It's the way that the town staff updates the website and the tools we have for doing that are going to be the biggest change.
Okay, so the reason I was asking is, having looked over the website today, as far as having it more consistent so that it doesn't matter what department you go to, you see what day the meetings are going to be. I really did a lot of searching and said, something's not updated. A meeting may have no meetings or, agendas. So that type of thing where anybody who's saying, oh, I'm interested in what's happening on Essex Landing Place or whatever it's called, they have a place to go and look to see when it was talked about or something. So that was the only thing. I just thought that each of the pages should be updated so that if it is going to be migrated to a new platform, that we don't lose anything.
Right, and each department is responsible for posting their own content.
Okay.
And so that's why you're seeing differences among departments. Now, I can ask people to look at more consistency. Everyone has to have their board agendas on their page. Everyone has a place to put the names of the board members, the names of the staff. But maybe you're noticing, like, some departments have their own calendar built in, which you can do, but others haven't elected to do that.
And it was more just making sure that the names are correct, that if we're going to migrate all of this to another platform, that it is actually accurate.
Yep.
I mean, there was a couple that I was like, is he still on that? So that was the type of thing.
Yep, and prior to the migration.
Yeah. It's always better to clean up before you migrate
Yep.
than after you migrate.
Yep. Great, thanks.
And then really, they had left, oh, Jody's still here, but really being consistent with getting our meeting notes up, whether it's up, I know our board does really well, but all the others, so that somebody can read and see what was said at the last meeting.
Yes, and we do ask departments to do that in a timely fashion, but we don't have direct control at the selectman's office level
Yeah,
over whether they do it.
but shouldn't we, as the Board of Selectmen, be able to say, no, you need to? I mean,
It
I know
depends on the
everybody's strained. I
Yeah.
mean, you heard it from every department. They're a little bit strained.
Well, departments that report to you, that's one thing, but other departments that are independent, it's more of a suggestion than a requirement, and that's why you see differences.
Okay.
I have no questions. So I will make a motion to adjourn at 8:19 PM.
Second,
All those in favor?
aye.
Aye.